Your rejection was a redirection into divine blueprint chaos. I want you to take a breath before we begin, because what I'm about to say might shake something old inside you. Especially if you've spent most of your life feeling like the outsider, the strange one, the misunderstood anomaly in your family, your community, or your culture. If you've ever felt like the black sheep, this message isn't just for you, it's about you. You see, the world has trained us to believe that black sheep are broken, rebellious, too emotional, too intense, too different. But what if I told you that what they call too much is exactly what makes you divinely coded? What if I told you that black sheep are not just misunderstood, they are misplaced prophets? When your soul carries a frequency that threatens the illusion, society doesn't reward it. It rejects it. And that rejection is not a punishment, it's a summons into initiation, into isolation, into decoding the very matrix your bloodline has been enslaved to for generations. That's why the black sheep suffers early, because the soul signed a contract not to fit in but to break patterns. Have you ever asked yourself, why me? Why couldn't I just be normal? What if the answer is, because normal was the lie? Let's go deeper. You didn't just randomly incarnate into a chaotic family. You were strategically placed there. You carry the blueprint of disruption, divine disruption. The black sheep is often born into ancestral systems that are spiritually dead, generational patterns of silence, shame, addiction, control, religious dogma, or emotional repression. And when you show up with your sensitivity, your truth, your refusal to conform, you become the glitch in the family code. They call you disrespectful, rebellious, ungrateful. But they don't realize your soul came to reprogram the script. That's why you were never comfortable pretending. That's why the family gatherings drained you. That's why you questioned the rules no one else dared to challenge. You weren't being difficult. You were remembering. And that remembrance feels like rebellion to people who've forgotten how to feel. You start asking, why does no one talk about this? Why do we ignore what's obviously harming us? And that question alone begins to unravel the false peace that holds the family dysfunction in place. You're not the problem. You're the pattern interrupt. But here's where it gets even more mystical. The black sheep often experiences what I call silent initiations, deep spiritual tests that no one sees. While others are building careers, families, and reputations, you're in the trenches of the soul. You're losing people, shedding identities, dying and rebirthing without applause. And it feels unfair. It feels lonely. But it's not punishment, it's preparation. Your soul is being refined in secret, trained by shadow, taught by silence. You're becoming fluent in the language of the unseen. That's why your breakdowns feel cosmic. That's why your heartbreaks feel sacred. Because your path isn't about appearances, it's about embodied transformation. Most people will never understand the weight you carry, and they're not meant to, because what you're birthing isn't for them to validate. It's for you to activate. You're not just healing yourself, you're rewriting timelines. You're clearing karma that's not even yours. You're breaking spells cast generations before you were born. So ask yourself, if my pain feels this ancient, could it be because my purpose is just as eternal? Now here's the paradox that makes the black sheep so powerful and so dangerous to the status quo. While others seek light in temples, churches, and rituals, you were thrown into the fire of dysfunction. And there, in the chaos, you found God in the ashes. You didn't read about transformation, you became it. You didn't hear about shadow work, you lived it. You are not someone who quotes wisdom, you embody it. That's why your presence triggers people. Because you carry the vibration of unfiltered truth. You remind people of what they've buried. And instead of celebrating you, they exile you. But that exile That sacred isolation is the very forge where your true identity is revealed. You're not just the black sheep. You're the coded one, the breaker of patterns, the soul-assigned disruptor. You carry the DNA of divine reversal. And the moment you stop trying to get them to see you and start seeing yourself, everything changes. Your power activates. Your vision returns. Your mission becomes undeniable. So I ask you, are you ready to stop grieving who you could never be and finally embody who you were always meant to become? You were born to collapse what your ancestors agreed to survive. The moment you stop trying to be seen by those who fear your depth is the moment your sacred assignment begins. You see, when we're young, especially as the black sheep, we crave belonging more than breath. We mistake acceptance for love. So we shrink, we perform, we try to be palatable. We learn how to hide our gifts behind masks of normalcy. But the soul can only be silenced for so long. Eventually, something breaks. Sometimes it's a relationship ending. Sometimes it's a betrayal. Sometimes it's a full-blown identity collapse. And in that collapse, something ancient wakes up inside you. The part that remembers. The part that never forgot. That's when the black sheep begins the return, not to the family, but to the truth. You stop asking, why did they reject me? And start realizing, I was never meant to fit into a system I came to dismantle. Your rejection was never about you being unworthy. It was about your frequency being incompatible with spiritual stagnation. Let that sink in. You weren't kicked out, you were called out. Called out of illusion, out of generational sleepwalking, into sacred rebellion. Now here's the truth we rarely say out loud. Being the black sheep hurts like hell. It's not glamorous. It's not poetic. It's gritty, isolating, and often brutally unfair. You carry the weight of wounds you didn't cause, and truths no one wants to hear. But that pain, that sacred ache, isn't here to crush you. It's here to forge you. You're not just healing from trauma. You're learning how to alchemize it into power. That's what makes the black sheep different. While others medicate, avoid, or spiritualize their pain, you sit with it. You let it speak. You let it undo you. And in that undoing, something holy emerges. A version of you that doesn't just survive the fire, but becomes it. That's why you feel things deeper. That's why your emotions don't fit into nice categories. You're not here to tame your feelings. You're here to decode them. Every tear you've cried in silence has carved a channel for divine intelligence to flow through you. You are becoming a living oracle, not because you chose it, but because your soul was chosen. And let's talk about that word, chosen. It's become trendy, almost performative. But real chosen ones don't announce themselves. They are too busy surviving initiations most people will never even see. And for the black sheep, being chosen doesn't mean you're better. It means you've been burdened. You've been entrusted with karmic keys. You've been asked to walk through doors others are too afraid to open. Why? Because you're strong enough to feel what others suppress. You're bold enough to speak what others deny. And you're tender enough to still love, even after being cast aside. That is sacred. That is holy. That is dangerous to every system built on silence. So if you've ever wondered why your path has been so hard, consider this. What if your soul volunteered to be the one who ends the cycle? What if you're the first in your bloodline to say no to what everyone else accepted? That level of spiritual responsibility doesn't come with ease and applause. It comes with isolation, with fire, with the kind of inner work that looks like madness from the outside. But inside, it's revolution. So I ask you, will you keep trying to be understood by those who are committed to forgetting? Or will you finally remember what you came here to ignite? Because the black sheep doesn't find home in others. The black sheep builds it. From ashes, from silence, from nothing but the echo of their own soul calling them forward. You carry sacred codes in your DNA, codes of disruption, codes of liberation, codes of reconstruction. You weren't born to follow the blueprint. You are the blueprint. And the sooner you stop negotiating your truth for temporary comfort, the faster your divine architecture will rise. You are not too broken. You are not too late. You are not too much. You are calibrated exactly for what your lineage, your culture, your generation, and this collapsing world needs. So don't collapse with it. Rise from it. And when you do, you'll realize you were never the black sheep. You were always the dark phoenix in disguise. You were born to collapse what your ancestors agreed to survive. There is a sacred violence to awakening, and no one understands this better than the black sheep. Because when you awaken, you don't just break your own illusions, you threaten everything your bloodline agreed to normalize. Abuse disguised as tradition, silence worshipped as peace, suffering romanticized as strength. And here you are, walking into this field of inherited denial, saying no more. You see, your ancestors did not fail. They endured. And endurance is not weakness. It's wisdom in survival form. But what they survived, you were born to transform. That's why you feel like you don't belong. That's why you've always felt torn between loyalty and liberation. Because to heal, you must first say, I will not carry this anymore. And that declaration is spiritual warfare. It tears through the energetic agreements made long before you were born. It disrupts the emotional contracts of your lineage. You are not just healing, you are collapsing frameworks. And yes, it will cost you comfort, familiarity, sometimes even connection. But what you gain in return is sovereignty. You gain the ability to choose what lives through you. And that is divine authority. There's a moment every black sheep reaches where they must decide, do I keep playing the role they expect? Or do I become the version of myself I was born to remember? This is where the shedding becomes sacred. You start letting go of roles, caretaker, peacemaker, scapegoat. You stop trying to fix everyone. You stop trying to be the translator of emotional chaos. You stop being the shock absorber between truth and tradition. And as you do, something terrifying happens. You become visible, not as who they wanted you to be, but as who you are. And many won't like it, because when a black sheep becomes conscious, they stop being controllable. They stop being guilted into silence. They stop being manipulated by shame. You start to speak. You start to shine. You start to disagree. And your no becomes louder than generations of yes. That's not rebellion. That's remembrance. You're remembering the divine contract you made long before this life, that you would be the one to feel it all, so others could finally be free. And as you continue walking this path, something beautiful begins to emerge. You realize you're not alone. All around the world, other black sheep are waking up too. Other misfits, other cycle breakers, other souls who were sent into broken systems not to survive them, but to rebuild from the ruins. You begin to see the pattern. You were never exiled because you were weak. You were exiled because you carried a frequency that could not be domesticated. And now that frequency is activating across timelines, across cultures, across bloodlines. We are finding each other. And in that recognition, we heal. Not through perfection, but through presence. Not through ritual, but through remembrance. This is the new tribe, the tribe of the uncontainable. The ones who stopped performing healing and started embodying wholeness. You don't need to fit in anymore. You were never supposed to. You need to rise, and in your rising, you don't just reclaim your voice. You give permission for the unspoken pain of generations to finally exhale. So here's the final truth I offer you. Not as a guru, but as someone who has walked this fire with you in spirit. You are not the black sheep. You are the golden key. You are the one your ancestors prayed for in silence, not knowing what form the answer would take. And yes, you came wrapped in rebellion. You came wrapped in dreams they didn't understand. You came with a heart too open and a truth too raw. But that was the design, because systems don't fall from silence, they fall from the sound of awakening. And that sound, beloved, is you. So I ask you with reverence and fire, will you keep apologizing for what you were born to change? Or will you finally step into the fire and become the altar? Because when black sheep stop hiding, the world doesn't just shift, it transfigures. You are not here to be accepted. You are here to initiate evolution. And that evolution begins the moment you stop explaining your frequency and start embodying your divinity. Walk boldly, speak fiercely, love deeply. And remember always, your difference is not your defect, it is your design.